Hello everybody and welcome back to another That Adventure Life video. I am Dustin.
And I'm V.
And we are coming to you today from another one of our favorite Southern California kayak spots, the Newport Aquatic Center.
Yes, this spot is super cool, especially it have two separate routes that you can take, whether you go right or left. For beginner, we usually go left. It's a little bit calmer. There's stingrays and stuff to look at. If you're a little bit more advanced, you go right. You don't have to be super advanced because the ride would take you out to the open channel. Would that take you to Costa Chica, right? No.
Balboa Island. Yes, I ran dry on the word too. I was like, wait, what? Balboa, yeah.
Yeah, so it can get a little busier with boat traffic and ferries and stuff like that. So it's require a little bit more, I wouldn't say advanced techniques, but you would have to be a little more comfortable on a kayak.
Definitely.
Yeah, but this place is super cool. Tons of parking, beautiful beach. So it's one of our favorite spots. So we want to introduce it to you.
All right.
Guys ready?
Let's do it.
Okay.
One of the great things about leaving from the Newport Aquatic Center is that if you or people in your group don't have their own kayaks, they have tons of rentals here. And if you're just trying paddle sports for the first time and you fall in love with it, which we totally understand why you would, you can always become a member here and take part in some of the other paddling and rowing disciplines that they have to offer. Just a small heads up, the beach here can get super busy on the weekends, so you might want to get here early to get the cleanest path down to the water. If you're bringing heavier kayaks like we do, it's probably a good idea to bring a cart, just because sometimes it can be a little bit far to get from the car down to the water. If you don't have a kayak cart, you can always click on the video in the upper corner right now to watch how we made some. Please note that some of the prices may have changed with all the recent inflation, but you may have some of these parts laying around at home and that will save you some money. As we mentioned earlier, there are two different ways that you can go when leaving the Newport Aquatic Center. And to start off the video, we are going to head towards the what we call harbor side, which will take us over towards Balboa Island. There are lots of different channels and ways that you can go on this side, but we are going to show you one of our favorite routes to take. If you're wanting to go towards the harbor, you will be making a right as you leave the Aquatic Center. And even though we've been calling this the Newport Aquatic Center this whole video, this waterway is actually known as the Newport Back Bay. We just always refer to it as the Newport Aquatic Center because that's where we leave from. Soon you should start to see some really nice houses on your right side and a cool campground called Newport Dunes on your left. Even though it isn't anywhere near as frequent here as it is when we get closer to Balboa Island, there is occasionally some boat traffic here, so be sure to watch out for that. And another thing to consider when paddling here is that you may want to get an early start to avoid a headwind on the way out. The wind seems like it tends to blow in off of the ocean, and if you take advantage of it, you might be able to ride a tailwind on the way back into the Aquatic Center. A little over half a mile into the paddle, you'll come to this little island. If you're feeling tired already, this is a great spot to stop and take a small break before continuing on. After that, we will be heading towards this bridge, which also happens to be Pacific Coast Highway. Here you will find another kayak launch option on the right side. And also underneath the bridge, there is the Southwind Kayak Center, which is another option if you need to rent some. If you are wanting to follow the route that we are taking in this video, as soon as you cross underneath PCH, you will be making a left. This will drop you right into a neat little waterway with some stunning houses on the right side. Believe it or not, those houses are actually on their own island and it's known as Linda Isle. Now that we are in the main harbor area, there is a good chance that you will see some big boats moving around. It's always a good idea to keep checking over your shoulder because we've had a couple of pretty big sailboats sneak up quietly behind us before. One of the nice things about these smaller side channels is that if you visit on a calm day, especially a day with little to no wind, the water can be almost as flat as glass back here, and it's really peaceful. The channel eventually curves off to the right and heads towards one of the most picturesque bridges along this route. This section kind of reminds us of our other favorite local paddle spot, which is Huntington Harbor. If you haven't seen that video, be sure to click in the upper corner right now. After crossing under the bridge, you're going to now have fancy houses and fancy yachts on both sides. And somehow we also managed to catch the Goodyear blimp on this day. When you see this area today, it's hard to believe that at one point it was nothing more than a mudflat and swampland. It wasn't until the 1860s that they started to dredge millions of tons of silt out and Balboa Island started to take shape. Eventually we came to an intersection and we always turn left here. There are beaches on both the left and right side, and this is a great place to take a sometimes sudden stop and a break. This is one of the last options for a break that you're going to have for a little bit, so if you're at all tired, I highly recommend stopping here. If you are out here on the weekends, this beach can actually be pretty popular, and there's almost a bit of a sandbar type vibe. It's pretty fun. After a nice little break, it was once again time to continue on. Almost as soon as you cross under the bridge, you will be coming to another intersection. If you make a left like we always do, you will be continuing on to a waterway known as the Balboa Island North Channel. Making a right will take you to the main channel. And don't worry, you're not missing anything, we are going to be coming back through that one. At this point, it is probably a good idea to start watching out for Duffies. There are a couple different Duffy rental places in the area, and sometimes it seems like the people that rent them don't exactly know what they're doing. Fun fact, according to a census that was taken back in 2000, Balboa Island, which you see on the right, is one of the densest communities in Orange County. Approximately 3,000 residents live on a space that measures only 0.2 of a mile. That gives it a population density that is higher than San Francisco. After passing underneath this really cool bridge, you will have a bit of a decision to make. You're going to come to this channel, and if you make a right turn here, you will be traveling down a waterway known as the Grand Canal. But if you're still feeling fresh, you can continue straight, which will take you all the way around Balboa Island. This will add 0.6 of a mile to your paddle. The Grand Canal is a really neat little area to paddle in because it's very narrow and it gives you a little bit of a break from the busy harbor. A lot of times this channel is closed to boat traffic, but you can still go through on kayaks and paddleboards. In our opinion, the Grand Canal is a little bit more scenic than going all the way around the island, but if you're here for a workout, you're probably going to want to take the long way. Just in case you're wondering what the long way looks like, don't worry because we've got you covered. As I'm sure you can tell by now, we shot kayak days here several times to make this video. Here are some video clips from that long way around. If you're a big boating fan, you might like this site because there are several yacht clubs here and there are some mighty impressive yachts as well. If you're doing the long way around, you're just going to follow the curve until it comes to a right turn and you're going to turn there. About 0.2 of a mile after making that turn, you'll meet back up with the Grand Canal again. We are now in the main canal, otherwise known as Newport Bay. This is where some kayaking experience will definitely come in handy because there is a lot of boat traffic here, and those boats can make some pretty big waves, so watch out for that. And the other thing that you need to watch out for is the Balboa Island Ferry as it zigzags its way back and forth across the channel. Sometimes when the ferries come to shore, they'll keep their throttle up to press themselves into the dock, and if you cross behind them, you can either get pushed sideways or even flipped over, so be careful for that. Continuing on from there, you will have one more decision to make on your way back. You see the house on the left with the lighthouse on top of it? If you make a right here, followed by a left, you'll head back through these smaller channels on the way back towards the Newport Aquatic Center. Once again, this way will probably be much more calm, which might be a good thing if you're really tired by this point. The other option is to continue straight until you reach the next right turn. You'll know you're in the right place if you see the bridge that takes you under PCH again. After crossing under the bridge, you are just about 1.1 miles away from being back at the Newport Aquatic Center. And hopefully, if luck is on your side, you're going to get a little bit of help from a tailwind. Like we said before, we love this route and it is one of our favorites, but we can definitely see how it could be intimidating to new kayakers. All of the turns that you have to make mixed with the boat traffic can be a little bit intimidating, so now we're going to switch over to the other route that will take us into the nature preserve. At right around 4.1 miles long, this route is a little bit shorter than the Balboa Harbor side, which is 5.7 miles. The only challenge is you're not going to be able to take advantage of that tailwind on the way back in, and you're probably going to be fighting a headwind. But chances are, if we are bringing out people that we know have never kayaked before, this is where we're going to bring them. It's nice not having to worry about the boat traffic, and there's plenty of room here for them to paddle around and figure out how to steer their kayaks. The water level here can fluctuate quite a bit. You'll go on some days and the water will be pretty deep and the channels will be nice and wide, and then on other days it'll be pretty shallow and the waterways will be really narrow. A lot of this part of the video was actually shot on one of these shallow days, and we got hung up on sandbars a couple of times. In addition to kayaking, if you want to see the back bay from another angle, there is a hiking and biking trail here. Whichever way you decide to explore the preserve, one thing you might want to bring are binoculars. Because during the winter months, it's estimated that 35,000 birds will migrate here at the same time. Speaking of birds, on our last visit we spotted these two seagulls and their adorable little babies. It was pretty interesting because I guess we've never seen baby seagulls before and they look nothing like the adults. The preserve here spans approximately 135 acres, but that's not all water, that includes the bluffs as well. It has a very important job because it is home to three very sensitive species: the California gnatcatcher, the San Diego cactus wren, and the burrowing owl. And it's also home to an endangered plant species called the salt marsh bird's beak. With all of that in mind, please be sure to clean up after yourself if you do decide to visit. We noticed a lot of trash along the banks on our last visit, and if we had known, we probably would have brought some trash bags. This is one of the most pristine estuaries in Southern California, and it's going to take all of our work to keep it that way. After seeing this double hull outrigger that you can rent from the Newport Aquatic Center, we followed the waterway around to the right. This is pretty much the final stretch of our paddle. But one of the cool things that we spotted as we neared the end of our paddle was this blue heron. He didn't seem too interested in hanging out with us, but it was pretty cool spotting him. Once you spot these buoys, it is now time to turn around. I think that you used to be able to paddle in a little bit further, but as for today, this is the halfway point.
It seems like it never fails and you're going to be fighting a headwind almost all the way back to the beach, and sometimes that can make things pretty darn challenging.
If you're worried about fighting those winds, it might be a good idea to get an earlier start because they seem like they usually kick up in the afternoon. And it's always a great idea to check the weather report before you head out. Typically, wind speeds of between 8 and 12 miles an hour should be the maximum speeds that you should consider heading out into. Not only will wind speeds over that just be pretty much miserable, but it could actually be dangerous as well. After fighting our way back through some pretty sizable gusts, we saw the Newport Aquatic Center appear on the horizon and we knew that we were pretty much home.
Well, there you have it. Both directions that you can go when leaving from the Newport Aquatic Center area.
So our favorite would be going right toward the Balboa Island rather than going left. You make your own choice. One of the main reasons is that you won't get as much as a headwind going back.
Yeah, it typically seems like it blows in one direction, and it's always a headwind on the way back from the naturey side. So if you're lucky, you'll be riding in on a tailwind if you're going to the harbor side. So that's always a pleasant little way to wrap up a paddle day.
Yeah, so that's one of the main choices that we prefer the harbor side better. And I think it's just more scenery, just more fun stuff to look at, make the paddle a little bit faster.
More entertaining, I think.
But you should check out both sides. They're both pretty beautiful in their own way. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
If you have any preferred kayaking spots in Southern California, we would love to hear about them. We're always looking to expand our repertoire. Would that be the word?
I guess so.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you know of anything, let us know in the comments below, and we'll go check those out. And
don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell button.
yeah. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Bye.